"Get the hell out of my house, and don't you ever come back." The words sliced through the air like a final judgment. My own sister, Elena, spat them at me while I was still clutching the black mourning dress I had worn to our father's funeral just hours earlier. Tears hadn't even dried on my cheeks. The scent of lilies and incense from the service still clung to the fabric. I stood there, stunned, in the grand foyer of the house we both grew up in, the same house where Dad used to read us bedtime stories, where we fought over the last cookie, where we once promised each other we'd always have each other's backs. My name is Althea Rowe. 3 days ago, I buried my father, the man who was my rock, my mentor, my everything. The next day, I lost my home, my security, and nearly my sanity. It started right after the funeral guests left. The house felt too quiet, too empty without Dad's warm laugh echoing through the halls. Elena had always been the louder one, the more ambitious, the one who thrived on control. I was quieter, the dreamer who helped manage the family business from behind the scenes, while she chased bigger deals. We sat in Dad's study, surrounded by his leather-bound books and the faint smell of his favorite pipe tobacco. She looked at me with eyes that had lost all warmth. "Althea, we need to talk about the will," she said, her voice steady and cold. "Dad left everything to me. The house, the business, the investments, the entire $44 million estate. It's all mine now." I blinked, my mind refusing to process the words. What? That that can't be right. Dad always said we'd share responsibilities. He loved us both equally. She leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the desk. "He changed his mind in the end. He saw how capable I am. You've always been too soft, too emotional. This is for the best. You can stay with friends or find a place, but you need to pack and leave by tonight." No hug, no shared tears, just business. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Grief had already hollowed me out. This betrayal carved even deeper. I wanted to scream, to demand proof, but my voice failed me. Instead, I nodded numbly, gathered a few clothes into a suitcase, and walked out with the black mourning dress still draped over my arm like a shroud. The old porch light, the one Dad always joked about fixing one of these days, but never got around to, flickered overhead as I stepped into the driveway. It cast jagged shadows on the rose bushes Mom had planted years ago before she passed. Elena stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me like I was a stranger trespassing on her property. The door slammed shut with a finality that reverberated in my chest. I drove away in silence, the city lights blurring through my tears. Where does one go when family becomes the enemy? I ended up at a cheap motel off Route 9, the kind of run-down place with peeling wallpaper, buzzing neon signs, and a front desk clerk who barely looked up from his phone. The room smelled of cigarette smoke and dampness. The mattress sagged under my weight as I sat there, still in my funeral attire, staring at the stained ceiling. Hours passed in a fog of memories. I remembered us as kids. Alina, 2 years older, always the protector, or so I thought. She'd shield me from bullies at school, but later, as teens, the dynamic shifted. She started resenting how Dad praised my creativity in the business, while she handled the aggressive negotiations. "You get the glory without the grind," she once snapped during an argument. I thought it was just sibling rivalry. Now it felt like seeds of something darker. Dad's voice suddenly cut through the haze in my mind. Clear, wise, the way he sounded during our late-night talks in his study. "When the time comes, Althea, don't trust what you hear. Read everything. Documents don't lie. People do." My breath caught. In my grief-stricken haze, I hadn't questioned Elena's claims. I had trusted her because she was blood. Foolish. I rummaged through the suitcase and pulled out the thick manila folder I had instinctively snatched from Dad's desk before leaving. Papers spilled out, old contracts, business ledgers, personal notes, and a sealed envelope. My hands trembled as I sorted through them under the motel's harsh fluorescent light. There it was, a page with my father's bold handwriting, a name circled repeatedly in red ink. Mr. Halverson, Dad's longtime attorney and trusted friend. I had met him a few times at family dinners, but never discussed legal matters. Sleep evaded me that night. By dawn, I was dressed and driving toward the sleek glass skyscraper downtown, where Halverson and Associates occupied the top floors. The elevator ride felt eternal. My reflection in the mirrored walls showed a woman with red-rimmed eyes and disheveled hair, a far cry from the composed daughter who had spoken at the funeral. Mr. Halverson's office was all polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling city. He was a tall, silver-haired man in his 60s, with kind but piercing eyes. When his secretary announced me, he didn't seem surprised. In fact, a faint, knowing smile crossed his face as he rose to greet me. "Althea," he said warmly, gesturing to a leather chair. "I was wondering when you'd come." I sat down, clutching the folder like a lifeline. "Mr. Halverson, I think there's been a terrible mistake. My sister Elena told me Dad left the entire estate to her. The house, the business, everything worth $44 million. She threw me out yesterday." He nodded slowly, pouring 2 glasses of water from a crystal pitcher. "She was supposed to believe that. Your father planned it carefully." My heart pounded. "What do you mean?" He opened a secure drawer and retrieved a thick legal document bound in blue. Sliding it across the desk, he tapped a specific section. "Read the primary beneficiary clause." I scanned the elegant print. There, in black and white, primary beneficiary, Althea Rowe, the house on Maplewood Lane, Rowe Enterprises, the family manufacturing business Dad built from nothing, investment portfolios, properties, liquid assets totaling $44 million. Everything was mine. I felt dizzy, gripping the edge of the desk. This can't be. Elena said she was given temporary control for a probationary period, Mr. Halverson explained, his voice calm yet firm. "Your father anticipated possible conflicts. He loved you both, but he worried about Elena's growing resentment. The condition was clear. She had to prove she would care for you, support you emotionally and financially, treat you as true family during this transition. No eviction, no exclusion. She had 30 days to demonstrate loyalty and fairness." He leaned forward, eyes serious. "The moment she forced you out, while you were still grieving, she violated the core condition. The estate reverts fully to you. We can enforce it immediately." Tears welled up again, but this time they carried relief mixed with rage. She didn't just betray me, she thought she could erase me. We spent the next 2 hours going over every detail. Halverson showed me Dad's handwritten letters explaining his fears, how Elena had become increasingly distant, how she pushed for more control in the business, how he sensed her jealousy when Dad praised my ideas. There were emails and notes from the last year that painted a picture I had been too close to see. He also revealed small clues I had missed, Dad's subtle warnings in our last conversations, the way he insisted I keep certain documents just in case. By the time I left the office, I carried a court order and a renewed sense of purpose, but the pain lingered. That night, back in the motel, I allowed myself to break down fully. I cried for Dad, for the sister I thought I knew, for the family that was fracturing beyond repair. Flashbacks flooded me. Summers at the lake house where Elena taught me to swim, the time she covered for me when I snuck out as a teen, but also the cutting remarks over the years. "You're too naive for this world, Althea. Let me handle the hard parts." Those hard parts apparently included stealing my inheritance. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of preparation. Halverson coordinated with officers and witnesses. I revisited old family photos on my phone, happier times that now felt tainted. I spoke to a few loyal employees at the business who quietly confirmed Elena had been making aggressive changes, sidelining longtime staff who favored my collaborative style. On the 3rd day, I returned to the house. This time, I wasn't alone or broken. A sleek black Mercedes followed my car up the long driveway. Mr. Halverson stepped out, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers and a court witness. The afternoon sun bathed the familiar facade in golden light, but the atmosphere crackled with tension. I stood tall on the gravel, heart steady for the first time since the funeral. Elena opened the door after the third knock, still dressed in one of her power suits, expecting perhaps a delivery or another sympathetic visitor. Her confident smirk faltered the instant she saw me, then the lawyer, then the officers. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, voice sharp but edged with sudden uncertainty. Her eyes darted to the documents in Halverson's hand. "Ms. Elena Rowe," he began formally, "we are here to execute the final terms of Edward Rowe's last will and testament. You have violated the conditional inheritance clause by evicting your sister Althea Rowe from the family residence during the probationary period. As a result, all rights to the estate are forfeited and transferred immediately to the primary beneficiary." Elena's face drained of color. She snatched the papers, scanning them frantically. "This is ridiculous. The house is mine. Dad told me himself. Althea, tell them this is a mistake." I stepped forward, meeting her gaze directly. "No mistake, Elena. I read everything, just like Dad told me to. You failed the test. You showed exactly who you are when you thought no one was watching." Her hands shook as she read further. The reality sank in. The strong, untouchable older sister crumbled before my eyes. Tears, real ones this time, streamed down her face. "Althea, we're sisters. I was grieving too. The pressure got to me. I didn't mean to throw you out like that. I was angry, scared. Please, we can fix this. You can move back in tonight. We'll share everything. I'll make it right. Don't do this to me. I have nowhere else." Her voice cracked into sobs. She reached out as if to hug me, but I stayed rooted. "You looked me in the eye and called our childhood home your house. You made me feel worthless while I was still wearing Dad's funeral flowers on my dress. You didn't offer comfort, you offered exile." The officers moved forward politely but firmly. "Ma'am, we need you to gather your personal belongings. You have 1 hour." Elena begged for another 20 minutes, bargaining, crying, even bringing up old memories, the time we stayed up all night during a storm, promising to face everything together. But the damage was done. Her actions had spoken louder than any childhood pact. As she packed 2 suitcases under supervision, I walked through the house one last time. The studies still smelled of Dad. In the kitchen, I touched the counter where we used to bake together. Upstairs, my old bedroom looked untouched, a silent witness. By sunset, the legal transfer was complete. Locks were changed, papers signed. Elena stood at the end of the driveway, suitcases at her feet, mascara running, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. The porch light flickered one final time as if saying goodbye to the old chapter. I didn't gloat. Revenge tasted bitter in that moment. Instead, a profound sense of freedom washed over me. Dad hadn't just left me wealth, he'd left me clarity, a painful but necessary revelation about loyalty, family, and self-worth. Loyalty isn't inherited through blood or money, it's proven in the hardest moments. Elena had failed that test spectacularly. As her taxi pulled away into the twilight, I closed the door to the house that was finally, truly mine. Inside, I lit a candle in Dad's memory and whispered, "Thank you for believing in me." The legacy wasn't just financial, it was the strength to stand alone when family turned their back. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt ready to rebuild, not just the business, but myself. Freedom, after all, is the greatest inheritance of all.